Well, hello everyone, and welcome to season 3 of In Love with Love podcast. I am Anja. Excuse me, I'm not Anja. I am Nicole, and we have our lovely co-host Anja with me.
Hey.
I don't know if you can see her at the moment, but and we also, yes, shout out to Anja. We have an amazing couple with us. We are so excited. We're still on a roll with just introducing all of the amazing supernatural love stories that God has brought across our path. And so we are honored to have Elder Marshon and Minister Tanyka Parker, the Parkers. So we wanted to honor them in their distinctions and their titles because we want to throw that out the window now and just literally meet Marshon, the man, and Tanyka, the woman, these amazing women and men of God, but just amazing couple, and allow them to just be most authentic and show up in their most authentic form. And let's just do it's like the after hours talk. Like we really just want to let your hair down and allow them to be who they are so that we can get everything that God wants us to get from them, from this experience and this amazing love story. All right. So welcome.
Thank you.
Having us.
Yes. Where do we want to start? Like we've gotten the opportunity to already have amazing conversation with this couple, and so we just want to jump in because there's so much I know that God wants to really share with us on this platform.
So I'll start with just right now, the present. Who are you guys?
What?
Yeah, who are you guys?
Introduce yourself to
Actually,
the world.
you know what? I would like for you to tell me who she is and for her to tell me who you are.
That's good. Yeah, we've done
Okay.
that.
So, this is, well, I'm going to start off because I'm always tempted to say this is my wife first, but if I'm introducing her, in the purest sense, she is a daughter of God first. And that is something that most men have to come to grips with, and a lot of wives have to come to grips with their husband, and that God owns them first, right? Mm-hmm. So I need to start off by saying she's a daughter of God.
I was going to say that about you.
She is. Then she's my wife of close to 22 years. She is a mother of 4. She is a strong presence in the community. She is someone who is extremely intelligent. She's thoughtful. She is someone who is caring, maybe sometimes to a fault, because I have to come around and tell people, no, you can't have my wife's time. No, you can't, she is someone who I have always told her she could be whatever she wants to be. And I know that we're supposed to tell every kid that, and we're supposed to tell everybody that. And the truth of the matter is, I don't think everybody can actually just be whatever they want to be. Maybe not necessarily because of their own faults or their own gifts, but just most people have barriers that will not allow them the opportunity or the ability to say, I can be whatever I want to be, right? She can truly do anything. And yeah, I hope that was a decent introduction.
I liked it.
Yeah. All right.
And this is my husband, Marshon Parker. And I was going to say he is the son of Father God, and which is really important because recognizing who you belong to, spiritually who you belong to really sets the tone for everything else in your life. Mm-hmm. And because he allows God to lead and father him, that's how he's able to be such an incredible husband and a father to the 4. And Marshon is he's stoic. He talks a lot, but he only speaks with wisdom, insight, power. It's never fluff.
I say a lot of goofy stuff too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Especially when you speak over me, it's incredibly powerful. So that's one of the best things
that I love about you is your covering. So that's your greatest attribute is how you cover our home, our household. Um, he loves people, and he loves to see the good in people. And he's been that way ever since I met him as a child. In school and being a young adult, he has always been able to pull out the good in people and even mentor them in ways that is life-changing for them. And he brings that into the home. He brings that out into the community. He brings that out into the ministry and evangelism. That's what he does. It's one of the best things he does.
I gotta
Wow.
actually try to live up to that now.
Wow.
You do.
That's a challenge.
That is amazing intros. I mean, so my question is, did you all, I know that you've been together. How long did you say again? 20?
Well, we've
So
been married.
we've been married for it'll be 22 years in April, and just like anybody else, we met at a week before I turned 15. She was 14, but we were together for the most of that. But we're kids. You do the makeup, the breakup thing, and all that kind of stuff. Until I know finally I was like, this is crazy. Like we should just we need to we need to actually move forward a life together. And praise God, we have been able to, like I said, be married for almost 22 years and have 4 beautiful kids, and a whole lot of memories, and memories that are great, memories that are rough, memories that are in the middle. And a lot of it is just like when you have an opportunity to share a life with somebody and say whether things are great, whether things are rough, whether things are just bland. I wanted to be with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question is, based on what you're sharing, and I think it's such a powerful revelation that you're saying that you probably have arrived to after these 22 years, and maybe somewhere in the middle or wherever you arrived at that revelation. But it is a powerful point to say, I see this person first as a son of God. I see this person first as a woman of God. And also I've heard people say, as my sister, as my brother, right? And I think finding the value and the virtue in that person first from God is so powerful.
Yeah.
But oftentimes people don't just arrive there. No. So what did that look like at 14, 15? And how did you, what was the journey to get there, I guess?
You want to answer? You want to answer that?
Well, in order for me, I like to be careful with my words. It's more important that he see himself as a son, and I see myself as God's daughter before we saw each other as, the son and the daughter. So it was really important for identity purposes to lock that in first, to basically build and repair our relationship with God first and foremost before.
When did that revelation come about, though? Because I know, like at 14 and 15, most people are not thinking that.
Come about or still coming about, because it's an everyday thing, right? Every day we have to build and work on our relationship with God, and every day we forget who we are. Sometimes, especially, he was talking about great and bad and middle times. The middle times are the times sometimes where you can kind of lose yourself in the mundane of life. Yeah. So that's when it's every day. It's every day.
But was there a defining moment? Because I think about that, and let me just preface it like this. I think about it because I think about people, sometimes quite frankly, that they've lost hope in the dating process. And even young people, like we've talked to people that 20, 21, 22, and they're like, there actually is people that are out here wanting to live for God, that want to see me as a son, or the things that you're saying. So how can we kind of breathe hope basically into those people, but also, us, like we're still believing those things. So kind of like when did it shift, or is there a shift, or is there a defining moment that we can kind of say, oh, we can hold on to that little nugget?
I would
Well,
want-
so hear me on this. And
Yeah.
tell me, because I want to see if you agree with me on this.
okay.
A lot of times, what it is it sprinkles that you can notice, because so for us, for example, when you meet young like that, you're attracted to a lot of potential, because just in general, when you're that young, it's more potential than it is outright, you know, you're unfinished clay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you've kind of fallen in love with the unfinished clay, and ideally, what you're hoping is that that unfinished clay turns out to be what you're hoping it's going to be. It's almost kind of like the same thing that being a parent. You look at your kids and you see the potential in them, and you're trying to nurture them to get to a place, and you're hoping they get to a place. But at the same time, you start to understand as they get older that there's parts of you, there's parts of what you thought they were going to be that they're not. And then in those parts, you have to replace it with loving and appreciating what they are. So I think it's the same way when you meet someone young, same kind of factors where you're trying to push each other to get to places where you see their potential lies, but you're also learning them as they go, because, and Lord knows I don't try to quote a lot of rappers, but one thing I think Jay-Z said it. He said people change kind of a bit every 5 years. And I remember he said that when I was young, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I don't know why, but I just kind of saved it in my memory bank. But he's absolutely right. Like as you grow with people, with friends, with your spouse, relatives, whatever it is, things change about them.
Yeah.
It could be small things, it could be big things, but some of the things are things that are anticipated, but you fall in love with them still, and there's the things that you see in potential in that you understood and said, okay, I knew that was there, and I nurtured that with you. Am I making any kind of sense here?
I understand what you're saying, and it kind of reminds me of what Pastor John Gray had said about his wife Aventer when he was like, she's not even who she was like 6 months ago, let alone a year ago, and it's up to him to shift with her and to fall in love with who she is changing into.
Yeah, yeah.
My question for the two of you are, as you brought up the children and nurturing and kind of molding them, are you guys pleased with what you're molding together?
My gosh, they're incredible kids.
No, I'm talking about the relationship.
Oh, the relationship.
Yes.
Yeah, because you know what, the strength that I seen in her when she was young, she displays now. The ability to be able to communicate, or to be able to. So every Sunday after Pastor he does his sermon, she goes up, because she's taking like feverish notes the whole time, right? And then she goes up and she kind of gives revelation of the word. And okay, so let me do this really quick. I remember when we were in school, and I would say to her, like, why do your essays, like, why are they so simplistic, almost, right? Because to me, I guess like my idea of smart was like, it's got to be eloquently worded and this and that, because that was what I was trying to project myself to be, right? And I knew she was smarter than me. So I was like, this is what you're supposed to do. But in reality, what she would do is she would do what people yell at the pastor every Sunday. She would make it plain.
Make it plain.
And as we got older, I appreciated that, because I understood why God planted that in her, because when she has messaging, there's no one who's going to miss the message because she's not trying to sound smart. When I say that, she is smart. What I'm saying is a lot of times when people will speak, they will speak coming from a place of, I want to leave this place with you looking at me saying, I'm really smart. Not, I taught you something. I want to leave this place with everyone leaving saying, that guy's really smart. There's a vast majority of people who talk for that simple reason. She's literally talking to convey a message. And I'm sorry, I go off, I kind of go off because I've known this woman so long. And the open conversation of forum, all it does really is allows me to get away from the mundaneness of daily life and kind of really reflect on all the greatness I see in her. I don't even know if I answered your question.
It's so cute. What can I just say that it is so cute how she still blushes after 20-something years. And the genuineness, I know people are like, gag me but they're so cute and adorable and it's genuine. Like they're just, because they really think fondly of one another and that is refreshing to me, right? Because you don't always get that, you know?
And what I love
but
about
maybe I
it,
can start answering the questions.
I mean, I'm not even gonna lie, but you definitely veered off. But it's okay because it still highlights the beauty of a growing relationship. And honestly, I believe it's how relationships, not just romantic relationships, but also relationships that you water. This is what it looks like when you grow more in tune and grow more and more in love. And especially even our relationship with God. Yeah. Like if we're staying at the same place that we were 5 years ago, then there's a problem.
There's a problem.
You know?
Yes.
But I want to acknowledge too, I want to go back and say, because I appreciate and acknowledge what Anja is saying too, and I add to it in the sense that, again, it is refreshing to see this kingdom marriage that you all, I'm sure there are moments where you take each other for granted, right? It just happens. It's human nature.
Yes.
But, and I know this is an isolated moment, but I can tell that it's genuine and that you really try hard to be thankful and grateful and mindful and thoughtful of one another. Mm-hmm. And that shows. Mm-hmm. So that is, to me, that's a gem.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I'm going to let Tanyka now maybe say how the relationship
I don't speak as eloquently as him. I'll try my best.
No, put it where the ghosts can get it.
What was the question?
Right. It was, are you guys pleased with what you are molding together? As he had mentioned the part about nurturing, as you guys nurture children, the same way you nurture the relationship between the two of you. Are you pleased with what is springing forth from that nurturing?
Incredibly pleased.
Okay.
I talk about how, and you guys have probably asked questions about our past. Like, it's really hard for me to think about what we used to be.
I love that.
And it seems, when I know the story of how we met and we've talked about it, but like, I don't remember a lot of those years together as boyfriend and girlfriend. And I also don't remember a lot of our relationship in the early years of marriage, just because we've been married for so long. It's ever changing.
Feels like a blur.
It feels like a blur. And sometimes we'll have, little quips and moments that we pull from and remember this, remember that, and we'll laugh. I don't remember major fights. I don't remember that at all. I don't remember hard times. I don't remember a lot of stuff. But I do know what we have formed.
And what is that you don't remember? Like you just, the good times outweigh the...
It's just that life happens so fast and so much that I try to focus so much on what are we doing right now? Mm-hmm. What are we doing right now? What could we do better? And what could we, how do we elevate the kids from where we are? How do we elevate ourselves? That I don't really think about what is happening. I don't have...
And grounded in the present, it sounds like. Present and future
very
kind
much,
of focused.
Very much so. Very much so.
You remember stuff, don't you?
No. I'm not saying that.
No, I know.
Some people
are
held bondage to the past and they can't move forward.
That's
but it sounds like
definitely not me. I can't.
Yeah.
But that's why I had such not a problem. a hard time when you said, where was that pivotal moment that I kind of ducked that question. What was that pivotal moment that you realized? And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't have like a moment that I can pull from and say, this is when I knew he was the one. This is when I knew, we were meant to be. This is because I don't know.
Let me say this real quick. I think, I'm going to be honest with you. I think most people, when they say like, this was the moment I knew, or this is when, I think they make that up. No, let me tell you why. Because I think that most people have a urge to want to create a fairy tale. So I think that there's actually instances where people say, this person, I was sick and nobody was thinking about me and they brought me soup and I knew he was the one. Yeah, I think some people probably do. But most of the time, it's a culmination of a lot of little things.
Yeah.
And I think this is one thing that we can both agree on, is we don't want our relationship to be Disneyfied. We don't like the idea of the Disneyfication of relationships and life and love and things of that nature, only because when you do that, it takes away, in my opinion, and you can agree with me or disagree with me on this one. I'd love to hear. But I think it takes away from the grace and love and restoration and the strength that God possesses in a relationship. And what it also does is it takes away the free choice of relationship. Because when people act like it's just this whole like Cinderella story, every relationship has pivotal points, a multitude of them, where it can either be strengthened, it could either be broken, or it can either just be simply sustained, right? And we all have choices. And I think what it is with me is I get into it a lot of times where I always talk about the fact that I can't stand that everybody acts like relationships just happen. One of the things that when you talk to people who have been together with someone for a very long time, since they were young, everybody around them says simple things like, well, how would you know? You got lucky because you got this person. You got lucky because you got that person. Or you wouldn't know this because, and it's all these adjectives as if it just happened. And what it does is it takes away the work that people did and the grace that God provided and the strength that God provided and the revelation that God provided. Because anything that's done in life and has success, it doesn't get just put together. And when people do that, I don't like how it takes away the strength that the people showed and the resolve people showed. And most importantly, again, everything that God did in it, right? Because nothing that's done under God it just happened.
It didn't happen by luck or choice.
No.
And I like that you're saying, I love that we have to acknowledge the grace in every story, every love story.
Yeah. Because, and I'll tell you, most people, that's not true. Because everybody that I have had the pleasure of speaking to, who's been together for an extremely long time, they understand, and I can tell they understand because the language they use, they understand the danger of presenting a relationship that's been 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40 years of marriage as if something that was just perfect. There's a danger in that. Because when people are new and they experience chaos, when they experience a hurdle, then they'll go back to that and say, well, that couple that I met been married for 40 years, they told us that every day was perfect. And we're having a rough week. So then that means that we're fundamentally broken.
Us,
right? I actually take pride in the fact that we're two people who have loved on each other and have said we love each other and we're in a relationship with each other because we continue to choose each other. And I think I used this example when we were talking at the at the function where I used the example of me being upset with her. Did I use that example? Did I talk about that?
You can go with it though.
Okay, so she was doing her job. She's my helpmate. She is supposed to. She is if she sees a piece of the puzzle missing, she is supposed to take the puzzle piece and put it in place. She is supposed to. I'm supposed to not have an ego with her, because she's supposed to be able to come to me and say, "Hey, actually, they were right. Hey, actually, if you tweak this or you tweak that, you're going to be where you're trying to go." We had a moment on our way to Home Depot, and we were getting paint because we were painting the laundry room. And she was correcting me on something that was church related. And my ego decided to be like, I'm here and I want to show out. Right? So I always open her doors, I always do things like that because I want to go out of my way to, show her what I deem to be respect, things of that nature, right? I ain't open her door, I ain't talked to her. Well, the whole time we was there, got the paint, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. I gave her a good size, king size silent treatment. And we get back home, take all the stuff out. I start painting. And I took a break and I looked at Facebook, and she was in the room with Charlotte, putting Charlotte to bed. And a old football teammate of mine had posted the Bible verse. Matt, was it? I don't know why I'm blanking right now. But where it talks about love is kind, love is, and there we go. And I'm reading it, and every line as I'm reading it, my heart is softening. And I texted her and I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. But see, and I said, I'm sorry. And I apologized to her and I repented. And that's in that story. That's why I don't want to Disneyfy relationships, because there's times where I'm not going to live up to a standard and God has to correct me.
Absolutely.
But if I act like I'm Prince Charming and she's Cinderella, then it takes glory away from God.
That's good.
I'm sorry.
I want to take us a stroll down memory lane. So I'm gonna ask you to reach back, Miss Tanyka. I'm gonna ask y'all to reach
try my
back.
best.
So we kind of want to just have you bring out the perspective of your cultures and how maybe they clashed in the beginning. When I say culture, I mean it could be your demographic, your family, your ethnicity, but also just like West Coast.
Territory.
Yeah, your territory.
First of all, where did you guys go? Where are you guys from?
Pittsburgh, California.
Pittsburgh,
It's in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
The Bay. Shout out to the Bay area for Anja.
It's about maybe 45 minutes from San Francisco, small town.
But they live in the A currently.
Yes.
No.
Very interesting question. So I am half Black, and I'm half Filipino. But I was raised predominantly in a Filipino household, and raised in the church. I'm so proud of my grandparents because they, the church that I grew up in initially started as like Bible studies in my grandparents' living room at the house that, we've all been brought up in. And that church has recently just celebrated 40 years. So, it was a great foundation. So I was brought up in the church, mainly Filipino. I like to talk about how I hadn't even had like grits or greens until I met him and his family. And that's embarrassing. But in my home, it was very mixed. So we lived in a house with my grandparents, my mom, and my sisters. I had a great upbringing. They're all very much still active in our lives. My grandparents' journey, their life is starting to take on another journey that we're excited for them for. And I'm I'm blessed to see them still thriving, and my kids get to see my grandparents still thriving and stuff like that. But I just went off the rails, and I don't remember the question.
No,
again.
you're fine.
You've been hanging around me too much.
I know.
Like, how, when you think about your culture that you're talking about and you're sharing the two sides, how did that influence you in terms of coming together with a whole nother person? Was it something that prepared you for marriage?
I was never prepared for marriage, but it was something I always wanted. My mom was a single mom, and the form of marriage I saw was in my grandparents and my uncle. He's also married, but it was always something that I had longed for, a relationship and a covering. My mom told me about when I was younger, I had a imaginary friend, and it was a husband and two kids.
Okay.
So I had an imaginary family even before I understood what that was going to be.
And what did he do?
He was a banker.
A banker? Very prophetic. Okay.
And he lost his job, and I divorced him. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, which is why I make sure to stay gainfully employed. I make sure of that.
Never. And I don't know where that was instilled with me. I think it was just seeing my grandparents grow up. And it could have also been seeing how my dad wasn't really around. And that had hurt me. So I didn't want that for myself again in my elder years.
That's so
And
interesting.
I think I picked well. I hope that was okay. Is who I am.
Your story is absolutely okay, and then some.
But my family has very high influence in my life, very high influence. And their approval means a lot. And they definitely approved and love Marshon
Nice.
when he came around.
I want to say something so bad, but I don't want to be accused of mansplaining.
It's fine. No, you're fine. Mansplain.
But I'm really interested that you said that, because I seen it from a different perspective. I seen it from the perspective that you were raised to be a wife, because I look at it from the aspect of your grandparents and your grandmother and how she poured into you about what your future should look like.
And see, that's that's the kind of stuff I talk about, that sometimes I don't remember or see things. But that's why I don't feel like you're mansplaining. You see things in my life from a different perspective. And pull that. That's what I was talking about. You pull things out that,
That's
I
help.
I
That's
don't
that
even
help,
know.
right? Help goes both ways, right? I love it. I love
Are
it.
you
So-
blushing?
I am. You can't tell me.
No, this is so sweet.
I mean, put it like this: you guys actually have me. I'm a certified yapper, and I'm like nervous.
I know.
I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous.
So,
Yeah.
but and a lot of it is because I never want her to believe, even though I know she doesn't, because she's heard me say this before, because she's going to smile when I say it. I've told her before, I never want anybody to believe, or rather you believe, that I'm saying things about you, or I'm like talking about you in a positive way. I'm saying things about you in a way of like shining a light on you, or talking about how I feel about you, in that I'm doing it for the sake of somebody being impressed by it.
No,
I've told
it's
you that, but
genuine,
I've
right?
told you that.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about her, or like if when I talk about her in certain lights, a part of me gets nervous, because there's a little part of me that's just like, I don't want you to think that this is for, no shade, you guys, or
The lights, the camera, right? Like all of
Yes.
that. Yeah.
you know.
Have you felt like this like since you were 14? Like, because what you're saying to me and what I hear is like, you really want to, and she said this, she alluded to it, that you want to protect her. it sounds like you're like, okay, if I want to protect you still, have you felt like this since you were 14 or almost 15?
No.
Okay.
No. See, and this is the thing:
Okay.
is it would be real easy for me to lie and say yes, to an extent.
Okay.
But when I say that, this is what I mean by that. Is I've always wanted to protect her, right? Mm-hmm. But so, in a general sense, protect her, yes. But in a sense of the protection and how I think now, or even how I think when we said I do,
Okay.
I can't claim that I had that ability or cognitive thought when I first met her.
That makes sense.
I knew that I knew that there was always a general feeling of protection over her.
I'm going to challenge you though in that, because just having had conversation with you about your world, and we're talking about cultures and how our world shapes our view essentially, and those things come together and collide. Knowing a little bit of what I know about you and how you were raised by your mother, and some of the things that you said about your mother wanting for her, right? Can you talk a little bit about that and how maybe that did shape your worldview when you're coming with this woman that you love and that is beautiful? And I think that is more powerful than we think, because I think about men in our society and how sometimes if they're damaged or hurt perhaps by the one that's supposed to protect them, maybe it's the single mother, maybe it's the two-parent family, who knows? But that's the first experience that we have with the opposite sex, really, whether they're present or not present, right? And sometimes that can go the opposite. But it sounds like from our conversations off script that worldview of you wanting to maybe even protect your mother, now that's wide into this person as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
You know what's funny about that question is I can remember telling her well before we were married, I will love you, but you'll probably never come before my mom. Now, I
forgot about that.
No, so I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you why.
Wait, before
it's
you do
funny.
that, how
Okay,
did that hit for you?
I can imagine the way I felt at that moment. I was probably pretty peeved, and I think that started a catalyst of feeling second place for a long time.
I think a lot of people deal with that too.
Yeah, feeling second place for a long time, and that was something that you and I had broken.
Yeah,
that was broken.
Well, adding to that, I think what it did was, I think it caused you to feel competitive towards her. Not that you would have done anything, not that you would have garnered any type of negativity towards her, but
trying to vie for you.
And that was something that I birthed. What do we always talk about? Proverbs 18:21, life, death, and the power of the tongue. I created something where I had you, and I know this because one of the things you said to me when it was clear you're my number one priority, is you talked about how that kind of was like a breath of air, like you almost said. I think I don't remember the exact words, but I just know in my head you felt like it was
a weight kind of.
Yes, there we go. Yeah. I was looking at kind of how do I word it, and this is why it's important. This is why words are important, because I unfortunately birthed that on her.
Well, talk to us about that.
So by me saying to her, hey, you'll probably never come before my mom, I birthed in her something where she felt like she had to compete with her.
But how old were you when you said that?
We weren't married yet.
But in this
we were still children.
Yeah.
But also, where did that? Because we know the love of the mother and stuff like that. Where did that come from? And this isn't like a super like deep question, but it's just kind of like, was there things that you saw? Was there a desire to protect? Was it like where you called her little man? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the man of the house. Those kind of things.
This is the conversation that I'm alluding to off script.
Yeah.
Like, go there.
I think I'm a firm believer that most I'm not going to say most. That's not fair. That's not fair. A lot of young black men have like a lot of trauma.